Prepping without any money seems like an impossible feat. However, there are some ways you can prepare that are absolutely free. So stick around for the rest of the video. We're going to talk about how you can keep preparing for free without spending any money. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about how you can prepare for free even if you don't have any money. And there's 5 different things I'm going to talk about today in this video to give you some ideas about things you can do even if you have $0 to work with. Now, this is something that came up recently in a poll I took here on the channel where everybody said their biggest obstacle to being as prepared as they wanted to be was money. So I figured I'd make these 2 videos, and this is the second video, about prepping and give you 5 different ideas about what you can do without any cash at all, but still move forward in your preparedness. And if you're worried about preparing for SHTF scenarios and you're working on a budget like I know I am, and I'm pretty sure most of you are as well, hit the subscribe button below because we have to keep talking about these things in order for our community to grow and in order for those of us who don't have the financial breathing room to buy all the gear and get all the equipment to at least keep moving forward in their preparedness to help everybody achieve their goals. So, there's 5 things you can do without any money at all. And some of the resources I'll talk about here in the video will be in the pinned comment as well as in the description below. So make sure you check that out. The first thing you can do in preparation, and it's the most important thing you need to survive any situation that you can pretty much do for free, is store water. Now, water storage can be expensive if you do it the big way. And when I say that, what I mean is if you're buying 55-gallon drums or if you're buying giant storage reservoirs and you're treating your water and you have a system set up so you can recycle the water, all of that can be very expensive. But there are ways that you can store water that are basically free, that don't require a bunch of money or investment and still do the job, okay? And there's a video actually on one of my friend's channels, Survival Living, where he shows you how to store water in a bunch of old used bottles, okay? And that's perfectly acceptable in the sense of shorter term water storage just to be prepared for an emergency. And I'll link that video below in the pinned comment. But what I want you guys to take from this is that you can take all your old soda bottles and all your old milk jugs and all those things. And yes, these are not the most efficient ways to store water long term. And this is not the best way to store water in general. However, if you have no money at all, and you're worried about prepping, and you're worried about emergency scenarios occurring, and you're not sure what you're gonna do, having water stored, regardless of what type of containers you're using, is going to be very important in any kind of an emergency situation. And, you know, obviously, as long as you sanitize and clean these containers that you might be using that you acquired for free via your own recycling, then of course, the water is going to maintain its cleanliness, especially if it's coming from something like a tap versus something like an outdoor water source. Now, in that video, he'll explain to you what they do in the sense of storing their water and how they make sure it stays as good as it possibly can using something on such a limited budget. I think it's a good video for that reason, to give you just some perspective on what's still possible, even though it's not necessarily what everyone wants to do. So, storing water, extremely important for any survival situation. And remember, it's about 8 drops of bleach for every gallon if you want to treat your water in that way. And you don't have to have all the fancy stuff, and you don't have to spend all the money on 55-gallon drums or anything crazy like that. Just use some of the bottles you're going to use and have laying around anyway, okay? You're going to have containers. You're going to have empty soda bottles, empty milk jugs, empty things like that, that yes, are not the best way, but still can hold water, and that water can still save your life in any kind of an emergency situation. And in the meantime, while you're trying to figure out your financial situation and grow your preps, this gets you by and will get you through a situation in the meantime. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 on the list of things you can do for free when it comes to prepping. You can start right now, and it's probably the most important prep. So important that I'm going to actually make another video about just it at some point. But that's obviously exercise, physical fitness. Guys, it is extremely important to exercise, extremely important to stay fit. And if you're going to survive, especially in the sense of like a bug out scenario, not being fit enough to carry a bag, not being fit enough to run if you need to, and not being fit enough to try to get through a strenuous situation can be the end of you. And yes, some of us are limited, of course. There's people out there with health conditions, there's people out there with disabilities. All those things are understandable, and you have to prepare for what your circumstances are based on what you're capable of. But if you can exercise and you do have access to being more physically fit than you are right now, and you're not working on that, you need to take a look at that and change your priority. And especially if you don't have the finances to buy other gear and equipment and stuff like that, give yourself the edge and be the most fit person that you can be compared to the people who only spend money and only buy gear and only buy equipment and then don't have the physical fitness to back it up or even use some of that gear when the time comes. So keep that in mind. It can definitely put you over the edge of being more competitive in that survival environment. At the same time, I know a lot of you have commented, Magic Prepper, it looks like you're losing some weight or something. I have been, because I've been exercising and I put myself on a strict diet because I need to make sure I'm prepared for whatever might occur. And I know that physical fitness is a big part of that. And of course, during the lockdowns and everything else everybody was dealing with this year, everybody probably put on a few extra pounds, myself included. So I took initiative and made it happen. I'm doing it through restrictive diet, through intermittent fasting, and through exercise that doesn't cost me money. I don't go to the gym, I exercise at home. Your basic exercises like push-ups and running and everything like that that doesn't require equipment will still get you by and still get you better off than you are without doing them at all. So keep that stuff in mind, okay? Now, third thing you can do for free right now when it comes to your prepping, the third thing that's going to be good for you to maintain your survival without having to spend any money is to gain knowledge. And obviously, gaining knowledge can be a lot of different things, but you're on the internet because you're watching YouTube, and therefore you have at least internet access. And yes, I know internet's basically another utility now that most people just need at this point. So if you're spending money on the internet already, but you don't have any other expendable income, that's fine. YouTube videos, articles, there is literature galore on the internet that can help you be more prepared, okay? There are free online courses to take first aid courses and to learn things like CPR all online for free. There's tons and tons of information out there that you can access online that doesn't cost a single cent. And it's one of the best parts about the social media platform. Minus all the negatives, it is at least still free in most ways, okay? And it being free means you have access to tons and tons and tons of knowledge that can help you survive a situation if you ever need to. And that knowledge should be being absorbed by you right now. We should all be getting as much knowledge as we can, regardless of whether or not we can't afford to do other things. But if you can't afford to prep in the sense of gear, supplies, or food, or any of that right now, you can at least prepare your mind. Get as much knowledge as you can and read up as much as you can and watch videos, do all those things that can help you be a better person at the end of the day. So please invest your time in that. It's free. You can find about anything for free on the internet. Anyway, the fourth thing on the list of things you can prepare with for free, you don't have to spend any money on, and will make you more prepared, is to build a network and build a community, okay? Networking and community is going to be huge in any SHTF scenario. And you might not have a lot to bring to the table in the sense of supplies. You don't have a lot of money. Maybe you're broke. That's fine. Build that network, because not having those supplies and not having any equipment and not having the money to spend on a bunch of training or anything along those lines is going to be even more of a problem during an SHTF event. And having a network and a community of people who have those supplies or have that training or are willing to work with you because you have reached out and created a network is going to possibly save your life. And it's going to be very important to know the right people and have the right people in your mag during any kind of an emergency situation, because you spent the time and effort building it now, even though you don't have the resources to do the rest of the things that maybe that group does. However, building those relationships now mean that that group will be more likely to share those resources, share that knowledge, and share that training with you when the time comes. Of course, getting all that done beforehand is the best way to go, and having that community can help that. I know that if one of my personal friends came to me and asked me for help in the sense of getting a little bit further in their preparation, I'm going to offer it. It's different than if a stranger comes to you and asks for it, especially after the fact. But build that network and that community now. I like to think of even what we do here on YouTube as building a network and community, because I now interact with preppers all around the country through the internet that are more prepared than even I am and have more knowledge than even I do. And it's amazing to know these people and know that if I ever found myself in a situation with that person, we had that pre-established relationship that says we can trust what each other's knowledge base is and move forward from there. And that's very important, and you have access to it because you're on the internet right now, which means you can build social media networks, you can build community networks, you can build email newsletters, and everything else that keeps people together. And if you want to be part of my network, make sure you go to my website, magicprepper.com, and go to the link that says join the MAGIC, the Mutual Assistance Group Internet Community, and that will be another way for us to stay in communication, okay? So keep that in mind, and it's something you should be working on now because you have access to it now. Eventually, let's say there's a grid down scenario and people aren't able to access the internet anymore, you'll wish you would have built that community then or before then, instead of wondering how you're gonna talk to anybody or even, access anybody at that point in time. Okay, so the fifth thing on the list of preparedness items you can do for free, you don't have to spend money on and you don't have to be worried about budgeting for or anything like that. Contingency plans. You can spend your time and use your time wisely and create detailed contingency plans based around any scenario that could occur, and write down and write out everything you'll do in the reactionary period to any kind of an event, because that can actually make you so much more prepared for that situation than the next person, that you'll find yourself surviving something that you thought you were going to need all this fancy gear and all that great training for. Turns out good planning wins the day. And contingency plans are not something that a lot of people spend a lot of time on, and it's not something that a lot of people consider. A lot of people will go buy a ton of equipment and then say, all right, I'm good for everything. But the person who spends a bunch of time and says, okay, if this happens, here's how I'll react. And then if this happens, I have to do this instead. That person planning is going to win the day. It's going to get you ahead and get you further than just having a bunch of gear that you can't afford right now anyway. And trust me when I say those plans are going to help relieve a lot of stress and avoid panic during those situations. So take the time you have now and create those plans. Take the time you have now and try to put together contingencies for any scenario you think could be a real possibility for you, and you'll be surprised how much easier your reaction period will be during those events, okay? And I did create a if and then emergency planning sheet back in the day that I try to share with the community. It was a little bit restricted based on what I was able to do with my website, but if it's something you're interested in and you really want to have some kind of an easy to understand spreadsheet style if and then emergency planning sheet, I'm more than willing to share it with you guys. So just send me an email, magicprepper@gmail.com, and I will send you a copy of that sheet for free. I don't need money for it or anything like that. It's just for free to help everybody out, to get a starting line to say, okay, these are things I might not have considered, and here's some ideas about how to react to them, and we'll just take it from there. It's an intuitive sheet. It just says, click on the thing, it'll say, economic collapse, and then it'll give you highlighted tiles that tell you like how to react to that. And then obviously you can adjust it to do whatever you want it to do here in the future, or you can write out even more detailed plans for any scenario you think might occur, even on something as simple as Notepad, just to have something in place that tells you how you should react in case something happens. Those are 5 things that are free to do right now, that even if you have money, you should probably be doing anyway. And if you don't have money, you can definitely be doing without having any resources at all. And this is very important because I know a lot of us out there are trying to prepare, but we're on a limited budget, or it's been a very very rough year for a lot of people, and money might not even be an option. So if that's the case, hopefully this helps you, and hopefully this helps you move forward in your preparedness. And I'm just trying to share some of the things that I have used over the years and tried to work on myself to try to give you some ideas of what you can do even if you don't have the ability to buy anything. So if you have any questions about anything in this video, leave it in the comments below. This community is awesome. You guys are awesome. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope that this next year ends up being a little better for us than the one we're currently in. But what I will say is that if we can keep preparing and we can move forward, and you can prepare in many ways without even spending money, it's going to make all of us better people. So thank you so much for all the support. And if you have anything else for me at all, let me know in the comments below. And that's going to be it for Magic Prep.